everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Pineapple Podcast, a Cherry Creek Innovation Campus production. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Morgan.
And I'm Nate Barrett. Today's guest has over 30 years experience in education and 14 years of which in administration. Please welcome our new arriving CCIC Principal, Mr. Steve Day.
Good morning.
So excited for you to be here today.
I am very excited to be here. Nice to meet both of you virtually, Nate and Morgan. Thanks for hosting me.
It's a little bittersweet of a moment too, because we're on our way out, so we're not gonna, this is our only chance to experience you, but we'll take it.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So you're both seniors, so congratulations
Yes.
on graduations.
You have a lot of experience in education. So what made you interested when you were younger?
So great question. So I was in high school and thinking I was headed toward a medical field, medical career, and per my interest, and I was in an AP bio class senior year, and Mr. Polka, my teacher, was in the front of the class, and I remember as clear as a bell, I had this feeling that I wanted to do what he was doing. I wanted to be a teacher, and I thought all of a sudden that was going to be the coolest thing ever, and I really wanted to do that. I had no idea how I was going to do that other than going to college. And I had no one in my family who had been a teacher or had been in education other than as a student. But it was that clear. It was that big a gift, right? Just to be that certain at the age of 18. And so I changed my major in college and just went right into teaching from day one and became a teacher and started teaching at 22. And the rest, as they say, is history. I've been in education ever since. I've been really on a school schedule in education since I was 4 years old in kindergarten, which is daunting to think about that.
So did you end up teaching biology, or what did you teach?
I did teach biology for a number of years. I taught most of my career in middle school. I loved middle school science just because you do a little bit of everything. You get a little bit of earth science, bio, physics, et cetera, everything, chemistry. And I just love that age group in terms of students really probably for the first time getting introduced to science. Typically students don't get a ton of science in K-5, maybe some. So they're still super enthusiastic. They're still trying to figure out what in the world they're going to do with their lives, and science could be a big part of that if they get the right teacher and the right introduction to it. And so I liked being in that role. It was a lot of fun. And then when I became principal, I was principal for mostly high schools, and mostly high schools who were either science focused or CTE focused.
And so what interests you in that science or CTE? What do you see in that?
So mostly, and this is going to sound awful when we compare it maybe to what other schools offer. So I think schools like CCIC or schools I've been a part of, like the one I've started in Oregon before this, there is such a high degree of authenticity, right? I think that makes all the difference for students. So you get a chance to, and you know this, right? I'm preaching to the choir, right? You get a chance to study something that one, you're interested in, and then two, you get to experience it in an authentic way. You get to be out in the field. Obviously, pre or post pandemic, you really get to be out in the field, maybe as an intern or in different job shadowing experiences. Certainly as best we can in the school, we're recreating that authentic environment, whatever that might be. I think CCIC does that better than any school I've ever seen in the country. And I've been in a lot of different schools. I helped open a school in Oregon. Probably it was in 2007, so for 2 years prior to starting that school from scratch, very similar to CCIC starting 2 years ago. We got to tour a bunch of different schools around the country just to see how they were doing it and how we could take the best ideas from California and Illinois and all these different places and make it work at our school. And so I got to see a lot of great schools, a lot of great models. And even with that, when I saw CCIC and what you had done and what was made there, I thought, okay, this is one of the best ones I've seen in the country. And so, of course, I want to be a part of that. Eventually, I was like, okay, if I can get there, definitely want to be there. So, and it's that authenticity that makes education come alive. It makes, I think it motivates teachers and students. And I think you see that in the data. CTE students and students who participate in these kind of programs graduate at higher rates. They finish in 4 years. More likely than students who are not in those programs. They go on to earn more after graduation. They're more likely to finish college. I mean, it's just a whole host of data that should make us all pause and go, why aren't we doing this for all students? Why isn't this just part of high school education? Why do you have to choose to do it separate and kind of take a different path. It should just be part of what we're doing for everybody.
What would you say in your first year? What is a mark that you would want to leave on your first year as principal at CCIC?
Yeah, I think a return to normalcy. I think that would be, the year, your first year was interrupted by the pandemic. You didn't get a chance to finish it, right? As was true for everybody, in 2019, 20. And then this whole year has been a jumble of different schedules and approaches to education. And it doesn't reflect at all, obviously, on CCIC or on Cherry Creek. This is how we've all been experiencing education the last 18 months. So I think for me, coming in and being able to provide students and staff a stable, normal environment, and some of that doesn't, I can't control the pandemic and the virus, obviously, nor could anybody else. But I'm hopeful that it'll be a return to a normal school year in terms of schedule and timing and so on. And then being a part of that and the vision that teachers and staff put together to open CCIC, I think it's still so new, and I would argue because of the pandemic, probably even a little bit unfinished. And so providing that space to be able to continue to see through that vision and kind of see what Mr. Morgan and all the original staff and the current staff have added to it over these last 2 years. Let's see that through. And then we have, a little bit around the corner, maybe a year or two around the corner, we have these new bond dollars, from the Cherry Creek bond, the recent bond, that provide millions of dollars to continue to expand CCIC. So that'll be a part of what we're doing from day one in terms of visioning. And then it'll be a part of what we're actually doing in terms of building and adding and so on programs, probably within the first year or two.
You said that CCIC was the best school you'd ever been to. What, if you could pinpoint it, what was different? When you came in, was it the feel? Was it the open spaces? What provided that authenticity for you?
Yeah, so a couple different things. One, some of it was the space to collaborate. So there was clearly a design in mind to provide space for students from different programs to be in a common space, not just the cafe, but in different levels and different spaces around school. And I've seen that in other programs, but I've seen that more in colleges than I've seen it in high schools in terms of, different programs and so on. And again, a very deliberate place for, let's say, scientists from different disciplines in college to be able to come together and share data or share equipment and so on. And it's a great model, and I think it should be replicated more. I think some of the artwork at CCIC, the very deliberate way in which the building was decorated is the wrong word, but sort of the layout, the way things are very deliberately planned to be inspirational or to be inclusive. I think of the big quote in the portrait of MLK on the front hallway there. I think of like the aviation program and all the different things that they have up on that wall in terms of the history of aviation. And just that, again, you see that and you think, okay, that's not equipment that students are going to work on day one and learn specifically from. It's not a space where you can hold a class, but it's an attempt to be very deliberately inclusive and to be very deliberately, the aesthetic of a space makes a difference. And I think, I'm just seeing you sit by the pineapple, right? The image of hospitality, right, for your discipline. And so I know you get it, right? In terms of that's a very deliberate thing. And I think the other programs were very deliberate in creating that kind of space. And then again, just the areas within each program that are really attempting to be very authentic. The pharmacy lab, right? Set up exactly the way a pharmacy might be. Your space in terms of both the cafe and then the hotel lobby space. I mean, all those different things are unique to CCIC in the number of different opportunities that students are provided. I've been in spaces where maybe there's a small authentic space, maybe one, and there might be 6 or 7 programs. You have that in almost every program, which is fantastic.
That is good. That's a good point. That authenticity, you look over at the mechanic shop and it looks like, wow, this is a real garage. The aviation, real stuff. They got engine mounts, everything. Mm. And the kitchen, that's probably the most authentic for me. That place is crazy. It's got everything in there.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember when I was younger, we'd take field trips to museums where they mimic car shops and they'd have like those little wooden tools. And then you step in here like years later and it's so authentic. They've got tons of cars in there. They're constantly, man, sometimes I walk into the hallway and I just smell the food they're making and I'm just like, oh,
Right.
another hour and a half. But it's just so amazing to see everybody so excited to learn because you can tell they're working towards something they're interested in rather than high schools where you have to take your specific core classes because those things not everybody's necessarily interested in.
Right, and you think of how much glass frontage there is for different programs, so you can, even if you're not passing through the space, you're passing in front of the space and you can see into it, you can see what's happening. That alone, again, just provides that, it's almost like a welcome mat, right? To ask questions, what's going on in there? You know, when you're with some of those students, again, different program, but you're in line at the cafe, you're like, yeah, I was passing by and the hangar door was open and you were bringing some, oh, what's going on? You know, it looked exciting. Or the mini houses were heading out. Where are they going? You know, how many people are going to be able to live there? All these different questions that can surface and generate new ideas and fresh perspectives and all those things that are lacking sometimes in other places, right? It's a ripe, fertile ground at CCIC to be able to generate that kind of thinking.
Here at CCIC, we're constantly reminded to everybody is created equal. It doesn't matter what your pathway is. You know, we're very adamant on I just had it. We're inclusivity. Yes. We're very adamant on that, and you can feel it when you walk in here. So when you do become principal of CCIC, what steps will you take to continue?
That's super important, not just for students, but also for students' families as they come to visit the school and community members as they come to see the school and see the space and experience it. Some of it is just the ability to express that, just to name it, right? So you both knew the term, you knew what the term was. And so just that kind of, okay, that's clearly been brought up. It's clearly a focus of the school. It's something you've been talking about a lot. So I think some of it is just using that language so that everybody has a common frame. Continuing to do that, of course. Some of it is, you know, the small things like having a welcome sign, maybe at the front door that includes, you know, the languages that people commonly speak in Cherry Creek, right? And so if you know there are 10 common languages or 40 common languages, and it's not hard to get a sign printed that says welcome to our school in multiple languages. And if, you know, if you're from a different culture in a different country and you're new to the United States, I can only imagine how daunting that might be. To then have my kids in school and you're trying to figure out all these different systems and how this works. But then if you see just this little, you know, for me it'd be English, right? Just see part of the sign includes, and you're like, okay, so they made an extra effort to make me feel welcome. That's going to help me overcome maybe my anxiety or some fear or trepidation or whatever it might be in terms of doing what I need to do in this space. Those are small things, but they make a big difference, right? And I think I felt, you know, through the interview process, and then when I was at CCIC just a few weeks ago, I felt very welcome. And I think that's, you know, that's a culture you build from the front door all the way throughout a building. And you do it very deliberately by saying, this is our value. This is what we value. This is what we want people to experience when they come into our space, just like if they were coming into our home. We want them to feel welcome and to be a part of our family. And I think if you get the right people, and CCIC clearly has the right people, because I felt welcome when I came in, I felt welcome throughout the entire process. I think that makes a difference. You just have to pay attention to that for people from all sorts of different cultures, right? So I felt welcome, great, right? But I'm from a majority culture. So what does that look like and feel like to everybody else? And how do we make sure that feels great to them also? You have to be very deliberate, and it takes time for sure.
That's a great example, especially that, like, make sure there's at least a word in their language. That's a super great example, because when you go to like a foreign country and you see that little letter of English in there, you know, like it's all Arabic, and then you see that English, you're like, okay, I'm feeling a little better. That is very true.
Yep, makes a difference.
And I'm glad you put it that way, because there are some places that focus specifically on education, and making everybody feel included is put on the back burner.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and you have to feel, I mean, I think one thing I've learned in my career so far, and it should be widely known, of course, in education, you have to feel safe. the bottom line, everybody has to feel safe to be able to grow, right? No matter whether it's at home or at school or at work. And so that's the first thing, that you have to establish as educators and as members of a community. People feel included, they feel safe, they feel like they can take risks safely, right? And then from there we can learn and grow. And that's what the goal is, for sure.
So you said everyone has to feel safe, and in my mind's thinking, well, this world is pretty wild these days, especially, unfortunately. And so I would love to know what steps or what are your thoughts on how you make education safe, especially in, like we said, such an open environment. I would love to just know what your thoughts are, what you think.
Yeah, great question. So the first thing is I think you help people feel included, and then your goal is to have everybody feel known, right? So maybe I know the names of most students, right, within the first few months of opening for next year. That would be certainly a goal for me, to be able to know students that well as they're coming and going. Certainly, we want to make sure every single student, right, is known, not just as a name on a roster, right? I mean, that's just a way to take attendance and so on. But known in terms of there's someone who understands a little bit more about them than just their school experience. Maybe there's a staff member, or there's a group of students who you're connected with. You've sort of deliberately been connected with as part of a cohort or as part of a program. Where they know you have a couple older siblings, or maybe you have younger siblings, or they know hey, this was maybe a tough week for your family for some reason, or it was a great week for your family. I mean, those are tiny details that we understand. Our friends know that, and I'm not looking for teachers to be friends with students, but if you know your students, and if staff members know their students, that's a deeper connection that helps people belong. And once you start to feel like you really belong and you're known, you're gonna work hard and you're gonna persist. And we know that because when we interview, sort of we meaning collectively education, when we interview students who drop out of high school, the number one reason they say they dropped out is they didn't feel known. Nobody knew them, right? They were just a number. Sometimes they'll say that, or they're just a name on a roster. And if they don't feel known, they don't feel like there's a connection, they don't feel like they belong. And that then starts to feel, again, it goes back to that, they feel unsafe. And some of those students will lash out with anger, right? So that's not safe, obviously, for them or for others at the school. So that sense of belonging, not only allows people to grow and to grow to their potential, but it also helps to keep people safe, because it creates a space where they want to grow and they want to thrive, and that just adds to that larger sense of safety. So that's just one thing, but I think it's a really important thing to create that space. And again, that goes right back to that term you used just a little bit ago, inclusivity. Make people feel included, right? Let them become part of the decision-making process in many things. Let their voice be heard. Make sure they understand that their voice is important and they're part of the family and the community. Those are not small things. We all want that, whether it's our family or the town we live in, the country we live and vote in. All those things are important.
It especially is here at a school like CCIC, where involvement and a sense of belonging is so important to the education process,
Right.
And speaking of getting to know the people in your school, we have some, what do we call them?
Rapid fire question.
You're gonna take turns, and I highlighted mine. So whenever you're ready, just give me a thumbs up and then I'll shoot them back to you.
Rapid fire away.
Awesome. All right. What is your favorite color?
Blue.
Any hobbies?
Two for sure. I love to travel, which it's been a hard year for that.
Awesome.
And I love to garden. I'm a big gardener.
Oh, that's super good. There you go.
And who is your hero?
Boy, my first answer has got to be Abraham Lincoln. I think he's done amazing things and overcame some amazing things in his life.
Favorite music?
Country.
Country, there you go.
What motivates you the most?
Helping people. I really like that. That's highly motivating to me.
Proudest accomplishment.
Ooh. Well, I'm a dad, so I have a son and a daughter, and that is probably the best thing I've ever been involved in.
And what sport do you like the most?
Basketball. I love to play basketball, and I football. I don't play football as much now that I'm a little older, but I like watching football.
Awesome. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, easy, Mexican food.
There you go.
Okay.
I like that answer.
All right. Are you a beach person or a mountain person?
Strangely enough, moving to Colorado, I would say I am a beach person.
Hopefully we change that. Hopefully we change that. Okay, so are you crust or no crust?
Pizza?
Pizza, bread.
Oh, interesting. Crust.
Awesome. I like to hear that one too.
Okay. How do you like your coffee?
Dressed up as a latte.
Okay.
There you go.
Nice.
Perfect for the cafe here. Career highlight.
Opening a school similar to CCIC. I did that back in 2007. Was principal for 7 years. Love doing that.
Where was that?
That was in Beaverton, Oregon.
Awesome.
And then what's your favorite movie?
Ooh, Casablanca. I love that movie.
Wow, that's interesting. That's a lot.
Oldie but a goodie. That's what
Yeah, it is. It is. And so I would ask what your favorite podcast is, but I feel like I know the answer.
Well, we already know.
There you go.
And your favorite pathway is hospitality.
Nice.
All right. You don't want to get him in trouble.
Yeah,
Like,
no. Okay. He likes them all equally.
I still, yes, for sure.
Okay, it's down to the last question. Are you ready? Is there anything else you'd like to speak about?
I'd just say this has been great. I really, really appreciated the time and the chance to get to know the two of you, of course, through this process and just get to talk and so on. And just the community of CCIC so far has been so welcoming. It's been really appreciated. So thank you for being a part of that. And then to everybody who might be listening, it's great. We talked about inclusivity and feeling welcome and so on. And I definitely feel included and welcome, which is fantastic.
Well, this podcast especially is important because, we were given who can we talk to? Who's our next podcast? She was like, well, we have Mr. Day, the new principal. And I was like, we should absolutely do that because I feel like it's something me as a senior, in a deeper meaning, it's something I can give to the CCIC. Does that make sense? Something I can leave behind because I think it's really important. We got to sit down with Mr. Morgan and I feel much closer to him. And I feel like that podcast that I did is one of the most important ones because as a student here for the past 2 years and having Mr. Morgan involved, it made me feel more involved, like I belonged a little bit more speaking to him. So I felt like talking to you and giving students and staff and parents, as you say, a way to, connect with you through us and as students I thought it was extremely important. And especially Ms. Dunleavy, our teacher, she was like, everyone is really excited for this podcast. Everyone's really looking forward to hearing more about you. And so I honestly I felt the pressure of this one. I did because I knew it was going to be good because we did that pre-interview a few weeks back, and I was like, Mr. Day is super cool. Final question that we ask everybody.
Okay.
The bittersweet moment because you were probably the last person that we're going to ask this question. If you could say one last thing to the young leaders listening today, what would you tell them?
Well, I would say, good question. And I'm just pausing a second to experience a little bit of that bittersweet. I'm reflecting before I answer on great job setting this up, right? And creating this space for the podcast, but more importantly, what the podcast represents, right? The chance to reach out to the community, bring the community to you in the midst of this pandemic, right? And create that bridge for students to experience a little bit wider world, wider slice of the world, right? And so kudos to the two of you for doing that and for doing this. It's just amazing. And then to answer the question, I would say just very similarly to what I'm talking about right now. Keep doing, keep getting out there and looking for the opportunities. I would say one thing, it's going to be your turn soon, right? To make the big decisions, to really shape our culture and to really shape our communities. And at whatever level you decide to live and work in, right? You can really make a difference. People sometimes give up on their voice, and they give up thinking that they're not important or they're not an important part of the community. And I would say if we've learned anything from the leaders in our past, from those who have made the biggest difference, they knew it was possible to make a difference. They saw the potential. And even though they may have realized they were just one person, they knew that's all it takes. It just takes one person with determination and vision, and you can go out and make significant difference. And so I think it's harder when you're younger, but as you get older, that opportunity just blossoms. And soon it will be easier, and the opportunity will be larger and in front of you. And I would say that the thing that I always think is sort of the worst tragedy is when people don't see that potential and they don't see that opportunity and they don't take advantage of it, because it does matter. Getting involved and working to make this world better is one of the best things we can do. And I would encourage everyone listening to this and everyone at CCIC that, find where that is, find where you are, and do that, and get out there and make the world a better place.
That was amazing.
Yeah, that was great.
All of that.
Super.
And for the kids, either starting CCIC next year or coming back, I can say that they're in good hands.
Yeah, they're in good hands.
And actually, as you were talking, Mr. Morgan walked by our window and was like, "Nice job, guys."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I can't wait
Yeah.
on behalf of the kids who will be here next year. I can't wait for you to start. When we found out that Mr. Morgan was retiring, we were like, it's a big position to fill, especially for a school like this.
Such a new school too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited to step in some pretty big shoes, but I know with the help of all the staff, the great staff there, and the community, we're going to continue to do good things.
Thank you so much, everybody listening. This is our new arriving CCIC principal, Mr. Steve Day. Thank you so much for the words of involvement and your excitement for CCIC. I feel like on behalf of everybody here, we can't wait to welcome you next year.
Thank you both. Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Nate. Congratulations again on your coming graduation. I'm super excited for you.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with the new incoming CCIC principal, Mr. Steve Day. If you'd like to keep up to date with the Cherry Creek Innovation Campus, go to ccic.ccsd on Instagram or go to Cherry Creek Innovation Campus on Facebook.
And if you wanted to keep up with the Pineapple Podcast, make sure to check us out at Pineapple Podcast CCIC on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Bye-bye.